I never thought I'd see the day, and it's very, very different for me, and I miss everybody, and I've got lots of great presents, and I'm really, really grateful, and what a day, huh?
Well, that is today's guest on our Vendée Globe live show, Nick Moloney. We'll join him just in a few moments. It's day 48 on the race course, and of course it is Boxing Day, the 26th of December. And as everywhere around the world, it feels a little bit like the morning after the night before on board some of our Vendée Globe race boats today. Up the front, it's all just a little bit grey, a bit of an anticlimax after yesterday, because most of the skippers at the front had, in essence, they celebrated Christmas in real time, and then they celebrated Christmas in European time, which was, of course, during their night. So a little bit of extra fatigue and frustration in the fleet, but Yannick Bestaven is back in the lead. Charlie Dallin briefly held the Christmas lead yesterday, but it's still a long, long way to Cape Horn, and we're still expecting them to be only a few hours apart in the lead at Cape Horn in a few days' time. Catch-ups, meantime, by Louis Burton. He's pressing hard. He's made up over 250 miles over the last 3 days. Maxime Sorel is now into the main peloton, and further back, Jeremy Biyu's taking places, going well, and so is Armel Tripon. He's up to 14th and going well. So, as I said, my guest today is the very remarkable Nick Moloney, well known for his 2004 Vendée Globe exploits. He finished the race off the course, as they say, hors course, the same as Sam Davis is doing just now, and others have done in the past. He repaired, and he had a big welcome back into Les Sables d'Olonne. He completed his circle in essence. But of course, Nick also did the Whitbread and the Jules Verne. He was the first sailor to race in or compete in all three great challenges, going around all three great capes back in the day. But he's always one to enjoy a challenge, and I'm sure he's got plenty in the pipeline for 2021. Nick, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Andy. I'm super grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
What do you think of the race then? I mean, we see the triumphs and the small disasters along the way, and how do these chime with your experience?
It's strange, actually, because obviously we're all loving watching the race and loving how, I guess, more international it's becoming every edition. And the engagement's huge. The content's fantastic. For me, it's a little strange because it's a situation that's really close to me and many other sailors that have done the race previously. And when you're looking at, I guess, the interviews, you hear so much more, the noises in the boat, even the Christmas messages, for argument's sake. We see the elation, but we feel the loneliness, and it is something that's special that we carry with us as past participants, for sure.
I mean, like I said at the intro, I think this is a very particular day because their Christmas days essentially spanned a full 24 hours, and today it's back to the business of racing full time, as it were. And it's a little bit grey and a little bit miserable now. We've had a kind of Indian summer in the South Pacific, and today it's not so nice.
Yeah, for sure. It's really uncanny because for me, I was just south of Australia on Christmas Day. So it was really real time for me. And I was actually just responding to a message from John Bertrand, who was skipper of Australia 2 and won the America's Cup, an all-time hero of mine. And I got to speak to him, as I did many others, in Australia and around the world on Christmas Day, under Australia, when my family were not that far away. So it was, for me, it felt quite irrelevant, if you will, and I guess quite strange for the European entrants, particularly the French.
And kind of Boxing Day, what's the kind of emotions that you would expect in the fleet today?
I think Boxing Day is one of those things where there's a real build-up to Christmas. You have various obligations on Christmas Day, as you mentioned. There's communication and there's high emotion. And I think for me, I felt that Boxing Day, traditionally we're doing the Sydney Hobart race in Australia on Boxing Day. So for me, it was game time again. It was like resetting and just saying, okay, push on. For many of the fleet, there's a cluster of the fleet that are reaching the halfway mark, which is huge emotional boost, in terms of, in terms of breaking the race down. So there's a lot going on. People have got different waypoints. Christmas is very much one of those. Boxing Day is, for me anyway, was just a matter of getting back on with it.
Indeed, they're heading out towards Point Nemo in the next 24 hours or so. But Charlie Dallin, he's in the second place. He was leading yesterday, and we find it a little bit surreal when you call him up in the middle of the night. There's a light shined in his face, and we start asking him questions in English. And this is Charlie earlier on in his night, and our first thing this morning, Charlie Dallin on a PVA. A quick summary of your situation and the weather just now, if you don't mind.
I've got no easterly breeze, and sea state is fairly short, and you know how it was to go upwind on an IMOCA. You know, we've been doing so much downwind for the past few weeks, and yes. And slow upwind is not comfy. It's not fast and it's not comfy.
So are you starting to get a little bit frustrated now? Are you?
I'm frustrated. I don't know. Well, you know, it's we've got the conditions we have. You know, I'm just dealing with it. You know, it's the way it is. So come back to a normal. Southern Ocean weather in about 48 hours. 48 hours with back to downwind and heavy wind.
And how was your Christmas?
I found the time to open my Christmas presents. Yeah, that was good. Foie gras was good, even though it was a bit cold. But that was my first Christmas ever on a boat, and obviously first time solo. But I also was able to speak to my family on the phone, which was good. And I was not expecting to spend Christmas, on a flat sea state and with all the sails I could carry up. You know, I was more expecting like a Christmas in a storm or something, but that was exactly the reverse. But that was easier to open the presents that way.
And so we're thinking it will still be close between you and Yannick at Cape Horn.
I hope. On my routing, my routings of last night are slightly favorable to him. We will see. You know how everything pans out.
Charlie, I'm just thinking, this is such a unique sport where you get woken up in the middle of the night, and somebody shines a light in your face, and you have to speak English.
Yeah, it's true. Like it's not for morning video. You know, like you kind of waking me up. I had to put my alarm clock to make sure I was awake for the video. But in a couple of days, it will be the morning again. It will be it will be daylight. Sorry, it will be the evening for me. And we'll be finally back to daylight for this little video chat. So that will be a bit more pleasant, and also a bit more pleasant for you, so I could be able to show you what's happening outside.
So Charlie Dallin, just saying that you're taking it day by day, hour by hour, and Nick Moloney, that is the essence of the Vendée Globe, isn't it? I mean, when you look at the relatively benign conditions, do you look back at your race and think, I wish?
I do actually, yeah. And when you see the images, and I keep looking at the comparable conditions when you scour the horizon and the images off the boat, I guess. But it's one of those things, as you say, you break it down by day by day, and at times hour by hour. And we have a sort of saying when we leave, and something that I've carried with me on all my around the world journeys and actually carry in normal life, and that's knock off the hills and filling the valleys emotionally. And actually the phone call sets a spike of emotion. And for me, in that case, if I spoke to my family, I could transport myself mentally to my family and be in their lounge room mentally and emotionally. And then you hang up the phone and you hear the rhythm of the boat and you feel the rhythm of the boat, and it's a bit of a reality that you are on your own and you are in the middle of the Southern Ocean, and it's a little bit of a shift in the emotional set. So yeah, it's different, but you are forever welcoming. I know it's difficult for Charlie to wake up in the middle of the night and have the light in his face, but it's a bit of an indication or a reminder that there is so many people in the world that are behind you and supporting you, and that gives you the extra boost. And that's something that the sailors are very much striving upon.
And what would be your advice in terms of the bubble to a sailor going off to do the Vendée Globe? I mean, for example, Boris Herman enjoys the contact and seems to try and have as much contact as possible. And at the same time, occasionally saying, you know what, I'm starting to feel a little bit lonely. What would be your advice to a sailor going off to do the Vendée, a long solo trip like this?
I think the advice doesn't necessarily come from the boat. I think the advice, strangely enough, comes to those, or should be extended to those ashore. Not when you call the boat, make sure you have something special for them. Make sure it doesn't get mundane or monotone in any way. Every time you call the boat, there's another expression of enthusiasm, excitement. Bring something to them. That would be my message. I remember receiving several calls, some from the race organisation at times, that became a little flat on occasion, and that's difficult because you are looking and desperate for a boost when you're at sea. So my advice to the sailors would be to surround yourself and have that cluster of people who will be open, honest, and give you what you need when you're at sea, whether that's a laugh or whether that's a shoulder to cry on in some respects. So yeah, I think there's a big responsibility from those of us on shore to add something special to every day or every phone call or every point of contact, definitely.
And your race was a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. You had several big knockdowns and really were in desperate circumstances at times. And as I say, you look at this race and we've been very, very lucky.
Certainly very lucky, but obviously a long way to go. The Indian Ocean for me traditionally has been a horror show for the 3 times that I've sailed around the world. And the Vendée Globe for me was certainly no exception. I had a horrific storm in the Indian Ocean and quite honestly, hand on heart, thought that I was going to perish. It was very, very difficult time for me, and you know, it was some points of this race in particular that have reminded me heavily of that situation. And you know, to take it to today or even yesterday with Christmas, I lost all of my Christmas cards in that storm due to the water ingress in the boat, and that was heartbreaking for me to never know what was written on those cards. And on Christmas Day, I could have desperately done with that boost. And that sort of slight message from loved ones and team members, etc. So yeah, it's never an easy race around the world. If it's not storms, there's other issues, and everybody out there is dealing with their own individual problems, whether they be mechanical, physical, or emotional. It's unique in that way. This race is beyond anything else in that aspect.
It is indeed, Nick. We'll come back to you in just a couple of seconds. We're just going to run down the rankings at midday today, Boxing Day, 26th of December. And as we said, Yannick Bestaven is back on top. He's 30.4 miles ahead of Charlie Dallin. Jean Le Cam's back up in third. Le Roi Jean is 1 mile ahead of his sparring partner just now. Boris Herman is in fourth. Both doing between 6 and 8 knots. This peloton of 7 boats is all extremely or relatively slow, doing less than 10 knots just now, so Boris is in fourth, Damon Seguin is in fifth, doing 8.7 knots, Isabelle Josh doing 7.4 in sixth, her best position in the race so far. As I said, Maxime Sorel is now into the peloton in seventh, Giancarlo Pedotti is in eighth, Benjamin Dutroux is in ninth, and Thomas Riong has dropped to 10th since his third place the other day, but he is doing 15.4 knots on the speed gun 30 minutes into midday. Louis Burton is catching up nicely. He's made over 250 miles in the last 3 days. Then our internationals, well, Alan Rura going quite nicely in 15th. Pip Hare is going well in 17th, doing 13.1 knots. She is unfortunately the next victim, as it were, for the fast-moving Jeremy Bayu and Chiral. Didac Costa in 20th, Kojiro Shiraishi in 21st, and then Miranda Merin 23rd, and Ari Husela, as ever, going pretty steady, 13.8 knots on the speed gun. He made a 250-mile day, and as ever, he's sailing that prudent course in the slightly more north. He just sets himself a limit, and that's pretty much his strategy. Nick, who's impressing you in the fleet in particular, other than obviously the guys up front?
Well, if I touch on the leaders to start with, Yannick and myself had a very early heavy tussle in the 2002 Route de Rhum. Some might remember. So certainly a soft spot for Yannick. I think it's a broad spread. I'm loving seeing the fleet in its clusters and the competitive clusters, and I'm loving how the environment is lending to the fleet not extending crazily apart. I remember it was 4 years ago when we spoke last, actually, on this show, and I was linked in with directly with Alex Thompson, and we were seeing quite some breakaway from the leading pack. It's still very much a race. So there's a lot of people that are impressing me from a performance perspective, but I really buy into and I connect to the I guess the character side, if you will. I understand and can speak French, so that helps me with this race. It's surprising to see how many French sailors speak fabulous English, which is great. But Pip Hare, I think, is really standing out for me. The energy, the joy, the pleasure, the pure pleasure for her journey for me has been really wonderful to engage with and follow. So, so many other personalities as well that I'm really enjoying following, and some are dear old friends. So, I think it's the personalities, less so the performance. This is an adventure after all, and that's where we all default, I think, with this race. It's a race of attrition, and it is a race. It is, and I've said it many times before, it is the hardest endeavour or the hardest race that we have in oceanic sailing, so. For me, it is very pinnacle, and it's the people that make it, not the competition.
We saw Didac Costa yesterday for the first time, a very special character out there, and a special boat.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, for sure. Like we've, obviously the history of that boat extends, and I know there's a lot of reference to Ellen's time with the boat, and for me, obviously very special memories as well, and. It's fabulous. It's fabulous, just fabulous looking at the life in these boats, and she knows the way.
Knows the way, Nick. I'll come back to you in just 1 minute. We'll maybe talk about your plans for the future, but let's have a look at the weather situation for the fleet today. So Saturday's weather, we're starting off looking a little bit towards the back of the fleet, initially with Alexia Barry here, just underneath the high pressure system, towards the front of the high pressure system. She has kind of southwesterly winds of about 15 knots, so quite good conditions for her. Similarly, also Clement Giraud in this little group in here, running the exclusion zone just underneath Australia. Miranda Merin here, so she is southwesterly, about 20 knots, influenced by this low pressure a little bit down here, but she's got about 180 miles, I think she has to go until she can drop down to the south, if that's indeed what she decides to do, because we have this little low pressure down here advancing towards the east. Kojiro Shiraishi on DMG Morai 1, well, he's quite far south, and he will be waiting for this low. He should be able to ride the top of it as it approaches, so he's quite nicely positioned. And behind this low, this is a really active system. Jeremy Bayu nicely positioned in front of it, quite far to the north, so he will get the shift as the low moves forward. He'll go from the northwesterly to the southwesterly in due course. But as we said yesterday, and Pip has said in many messages, she and Arnaud Boissier down here are really trying to outrun this low pressure system as much as they can. Really, it is pedal to the metal time for them, trying to make as much speed as they can to stay in front of the low. The low is dropping slowly to the south, and so they're trying to avoid the worst of the center of the low, which would be more difficult, especially as they come through the system. So that's the situation for the boats more towards the back, and then hopefully I can just get this animation running nicely. If I can just hopefully stop it for a second. This is the leaders just now. So there we go. Just the key thing for the leaders at the moment is the high pressure system is always evolving, and we have this situation where it's ridging just now and making it extremely difficult for the routing for the leaders. This is looking towards tomorrow. I just stopped it. Sunday morning tomorrow. So we've seen Charlie Dallin and Yannick Bestaven go up to the north to get to the front of the low pressure system and try and get some downwind sailing. Now if I just run it just now, you'll see how it plays out over the next few days. They come back down towards the exclusion zone, and this is this low pressure evolving here. Now it's going to be, if I could maybe just stop that hopefully, and just roll it back very slightly. This key timing for Charlie Dallin is vital. If I can just bring it back a little bit more. Yeah, so this is the key here for Charlie. You can see that Bestaven just stays in front of the centre of the low pressure, and Charlie is having to go up closer to the centre. So it's going to be all about how the centre of this low pressure evolves, whether Charlie can just time it right to stay in front of the low pressure. Otherwise, it could be very difficult. Meantime, Thomas Riong tracking towards the north of the system. The low will move this way, and so Thomas should be have a reasonable position. He's not going to be able to pull back miles, but he may be able to pull back miles on Charlie if the timing is not just right for him. Meantime, the peloton behind, staying fairly grouped, and let's just roll it forward again. The peloton is quite tightly matched, and if I can just find the button, we'll just see how it rolls now. So watch this low. And this is obviously fairly theoretical. It's not a very, very accurate timing for Dallin, but the advantage is surely to Bestaven going away with the low pressure system towards Cape Horn. And a little bit of a comeback for Thomas Riong, who did not have a good Christmas yesterday. He was a little bit between the devil and the deep blue sea, and the group behind having good conditions. So that's the situation over the next few days for the leaders. So that's the weather situation just now. Nick, tell us a little bit. I mean, you know Sam Davis very, very well, and you're very pleased to see her going on from stopping in Cape Town and fixing her boat. It's important for her to complete the circle.
Yeah, I think beyond anything else, the build up to this particular race is so intense, and I could quite honestly say for me it was 10 years build up to that point. And my race fell short. My keel fell off the coast of Brazil with 15 days left to sail. And that was to be my 20th transatlantic. So in my heart, emotionally, I felt like I was home, and for the first time in the race, I felt like I could actually finish it. When we debriefed with our sponsors, etc., I basically just put my hand up and said, I want to go back and finish what we started, however we can, even outside of the parameters of what the race rules are. It was important for all of us, I think, to finish what we started. And I think it's that core deep emotion. You leave Le Sable d'Olonne and you go out the canal, very different this year, but still nonetheless the same in so many ways. And all you want to do is return to that spot again. And that was the drive and the draw for me. I remember on the passage back, so it was 10 months later for me when I got the opportunity to sail to where my keel fell off and then turn and head towards Le Sable d'Olonne. And we kept that very quiet. We didn't want to make it a public scenario. It was more for us personally as a unit. And I remember having that 15 days at sea as being so pleasurable, not in a race, not chasing systems, not chasing opponents. So I really do hope that Sam takes pleasure in this. I hope that she, and I know she will, that she does realise her ambition and gets back to the Sable d'Olonne safe and sound. Her campaign is so strong in terms of values and merit, and we continue to support her. But a very different project now for Sam, but so special in so many ways as it was for me, and it has been for many others that have done a similar thing. But it is so important to just emotionally to finish what you started, because the race lives with you forever.
Indeed, Nick, a pleasure to speak with you. We could talk all day as ever, but unfortunately we're just running out of time. We talk about somebody who's taking pleasure at sea all the time, and that is Giancarlo Pedotti. It's his birthday today, and this is Giancarlo Pedotti on Prismian Group. So it's, I believe it's your birthday.
Yes, it's my birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Giancarlo. So, Giancarlo, just what's on the menu for your birthday? What are you going to be eating? What are you cooking?
So I cook different delicious. One pasta with vegetables, and then my wife gave me a gift that I find in my bag. That was one delicious biscuit. That name is alfajores from Argentina. That I love it, and it was an incredible surprise for me to find it. And I eat 2, and I have 6, so I have 4 anymore for have a party during this beautiful South Pacific Ocean.
And Giancarlo, how old do you feel?
I feel very, very, very good. Incredible. Look at me. I feel incredible good.
You look like you're 21, Giancarlo.
Look me.
Anyway, Giancarlo, thank you so much for speaking to us on your birthday in the middle of the night. We appreciate it, and speak soon. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Okay. Have a nice night. Bye-bye.
So the irrepressible Giancarlo Padotti on Prismian Group. As I said, thank you so much for joining us, Nick. I'd be prepared to bet if Jean Le Cam is going round the Vendée Globe at the age of 61, I'm pretty sure we'll see Nick Moloney back out there one day.
You never know. Thanks, Andy. Thanks very much for having me.
Good. So that is Nick Moloney. Tomorrow we'll be joined on the Vendée Globe Live by members of the Greg City Academy in London, a very special sailing programme. They're going to be with us. So join us then. Any questions for them, or indeed any of our skippers or experts in the Vendée Globe, do post them on Facebook, Twitter or on Instagram. Join us tomorrow.